Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Radio Theater. I'm your host, and I'm here with you tonight. Tonight, we're talking about the workplace. Not the polished, professional version we show in meetings, the real kind. The kind where you're awake at midnight staring at your laptop screen, wondering if you'll ever be enough. The kind where a broken coffee machine becomes the most important crisis of the morning. Because you literally cannot function without caffeine. The kind where you realize you've worked 3 desks away from someone for 7 years and never actually talked to them. The exhausting moments, the surprising moments, the ones that break you down, and the ones that unexpectedly build you back up. Tonight we have 2 stories about workplace moments. One about an email that shouldn't have been sent, and one about a coffee run that changed everything. So settle in and let's listen together. Our first story tonight is called The Email at Midnight. Dear Radio Theater, I'm a marketing associate at a tech company in San Francisco. I've been here for 3 years. As I write this letter, it's past midnight. My manager just sent me another email. She wants me to revise tomorrow's presentation deck. This is the 6th revision. At first, I thought this was passion. I thought it meant we cared about excellence. But now I know differently. This isn't passion. This is burnout. Let me start from the beginning. I worked so hard to get this job. I loved marketing since college. Not just liked it, loved it. I was the kid who analyzed Super Bowl commercials for fun, who couldn't walk past a billboard without thinking about the messaging strategy, who stayed up late reading marketing case studies like they were novels. My professors noticed. They encouraged me to pursue it professionally, so I did. I took every marketing class my university offered. Brand management, consumer behavior, digital marketing, analytics. I joined the marketing club and became vice president my junior year. I did 2 internships. One at a small startup where I learned to move fast and wear many hats. One at a bigger agency where I learned structure and process. Both were hard work, long hours, demanding managers. But I loved it. I thought that's what passion looked like. Working late because you can't stop thinking about the problem. Going the extra mile because you care about the outcome. Pushing yourself because you want to be excellent. When I graduated, I applied to dozens of companies. I must have sent out 50 applications. I got rejections from most of them. Some didn't even respond. But then I got an interview at this company. A tech startup in San Francisco, growing fast, making waves in the industry. I researched everything I could about them. Their product, their competitors, their recent campaigns. I prepared answers to every possible interview question. I even bought a new suit for the interview. The first interview was with HR. Standard questions about my background and interest in the company. I thought it went well. They called me back for a second interview, this time with the marketing team. 3 people, including the woman who would become my manager. Her name is Sarah. She's in her mid-30s, energetic, confident. She'd been with the company for 4 years, built the marketing team from scratch. During the interview, she talked about the team culture. She said they valued creativity above all. She said they wanted people who could think outside the box. She said they believed in work-life balance, that they wanted sustainable excellence, not burnout culture. She said most people left around 6, that weekends were for rest, that they respected boundaries. I remember feeling so excited. This was exactly what I wanted, a place where I could do great work and still have a life. The third interview was with the director of marketing. He asked about my campaigns from my internships. I walked him through my thinking on each one. He seemed impressed. At the end, he said I had great instincts, that they'd be lucky to have me. I left that interview floating on air. A week later, they called with an offer. The salary was good, better than I expected for an entry-level role. The benefits were solid. Unlimited PTO, health insurance, 401k match, and stock options which felt exciting and grown up. I accepted immediately. 2 weeks later, I started. The first day was overwhelming in the best way. New laptop, new desk, new badge with my photo. Sarah gave me a tour of the office, showed me the kitchen with free snacks and coffee, the game room with ping pong and video games, the quiet rooms for focused work. It felt like a dream workplace. My teammates were welcoming. There were 5 of us on the core marketing team. 2 other associates, 1 senior associate, 1 manager, and Sarah. Everyone seemed smart and friendly, not competitive or cutthroat like I'd feared. The first week I mostly onboarded, learned the systems, read old campaign briefs, sat in on meetings. My teammates checked in regularly, asked if I had questions, invited me to lunch. One of the other associates, Mike, took me out for coffee my second day. He told me about the team dynamics, the unwritten rules. He said Sarah was demanding but fair, that she pushed people but also protected them from above, that the work was challenging but rewarding. Everything he said made me more excited. The second week, I got my first real assignment, a small project just supporting a campaign launch. I was supposed to create social media content for a new product feature. Sarah gave me the creative brief and some brand guidelines. She said to take a couple days, come up with some ideas, and we'd review together. I spent 2 full days on it. I researched the feature thoroughly. I looked at what competitors were doing. I drafted 10 different concepts. I refined them until I thought they were perfect. When I presented to Sarah, she was enthusiastic. She said I had strong ideas. She gave me feedback on a few things. Small tweaks to messaging, adjustments to tone. Nothing major. I made the changes, and we launched the content. It performed well. Good engagement, positive comments, some shares. Sarah sent me a message saying great work. I felt on top of the world. The first month continued like that. Challenging projects, supportive feedback, small wins. I was learning so much so fast. And I was leaving around 6 most days, just like Sarah had said. I had time for dinners with friends. Time to go to the gym. Time to actually enjoy living in San Francisco. I remember thinking, I can't believe I get paid to do this. But in the second month, things started to shift. It was subtle at first. So subtle I didn't really notice. Sarah started sending emails later. Not every day, just occasionally. An email at 7 p.m. asking about a deadline. An email at 8 p.m. with a quick question. An email at 9 p.m. with feedback on something I'd sent earlier. I thought, okay, she's busy, she's working late, that's fine. She never said I had to respond immediately. So sometimes I did, sometimes I waited until morning. She never mentioned it either way. But then the emails started coming later. 9 p.m. became 10 p.m. 10 p.m. became 11 p.m. And the content started changing too. Not just quick questions, full revision requests, detailed feedback that would take hours to implement, new directions that meant starting over from scratch. I remember the first time I got an email at midnight. It was a Thursday. I was already in bed scrolling through my phone before sleep. The email notification popped up. From Sarah. Subject line deck for tomorrow's meeting. I opened it. She'd reviewed the presentation I'd sent her that afternoon. The one I'd spent 3 days creating. She wanted major changes. Different structure, different messaging, different examples. She said the current version wouldn't work. She said we needed to rethink the whole approach. And the meeting was at 10 a.m. the next day. I stared at my phone, heart pounding. This would take hours. I couldn't do it in the morning before the meeting. I had to do it now. So I got out of bed, opened my laptop, and worked until 3 a.m. I barely slept. The next morning, I presented the revised deck. Sarah seemed pleased. She said it was much better. She didn't mention that I'd had to stay up all night. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just moved on to the next thing. I told myself it was a one-time thing, an urgent situation, an important meeting. It happens. But it wasn't one time. The next week, it happened again. A late-night email with major revision requests. And the week after that, and the week after that, it became a pattern. I'd work all day on something, send it to Sarah by 5 or 6 p.m., then wait. Sometimes her feedback came at 7 or 8 and I could handle it before bed. But more often it came at 10 or 11 or midnight, and it was always big feedback. Never small tweaks, always major overhauls. I started keeping my laptop in my bedroom. I started checking my email before bed. I started having trouble falling asleep because I was anticipating the notification, and when it didn't come, I couldn't relax. Because maybe it would come at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. I started waking up in the night to check. My sleep became fragmented and anxious. I was tired all the time, but I kept telling myself this was normal. This was tech. This was startup culture. Everyone works hard. Everyone hustles. If you can't keep up, someone else will. My teammates were going through the same thing. We joke about it sometimes. Did you get the midnight email? Yeah, I was up until 2. Same. We laughed, but it wasn't really funny. It was a shared trauma we were normalizing. Mike, the associate who'd taken me to coffee my first week, looked exhausted. His eyes had dark circles. He was drinking 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day. One day at lunch, I asked him if it was always like this. He paused. Then he said, "Yeah, pretty much." "Since when?" I asked. "Since I started 2 years ago." "Does it get better?" He shook his head. "You just get used to it." But I wasn't getting used to it. I was getting worse. 3 months in, I started making mistakes. Small ones at first. Typos in emails. Forgetting to follow up on something. Missing a deadline by a few hours. Sarah noticed. She'd pointed out gently at first. Hey, just a heads up, you had some typos in that email to the client. Did you send that report? I haven't seen it yet. We needed this yesterday. Can you prioritize it? I'd apologize, fix it, move faster. But the mistakes kept happening. Because I was exhausted. Because I couldn't think straight. Because I'd read the same sentence 5 times and still not process it. 4 months in, Sarah called me into a meeting. Just the two of us in a small conference room. My heart was racing before I even sat down. She closed the door. She sat across from me. She said, I wanted to check in with you. Okay, I said. I've noticed your work quality has been declining. My stomach dropped. I'm sorry, I said. I'll do better. Is everything okay? She asked. At home, I mean. I wanted to scream. Everything at home is fine. The problem is here. The problem is you. The problem is the emails at midnight and the impossible deadlines and the constant revisions. But I didn't say any of that. I just said, yeah, everything's fine. I think I'm just adjusting to the pace. She nodded. I get it. The first few months can be intense, but I need to see improvement. You will, I said. I promise. That night I stayed until 10 p.m. I redid an entire project from scratch. When I got home, there was another email waiting. More revisions on something else. I sat on my couch and cried. I couldn't stop. My roommate Emma came out of her room. She sat next to me. What's wrong? She asked. And I told her everything. The emails, the sleepless nights, the constant pressure, the feeling of never being good enough, the fear of losing my job, the exhaustion that never went away. Emma listened to all of it. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. This isn't normal. It's tech, I said. Everyone works like this. No, she said firmly. They don't. I work in tech too. My company is busy, but I'm not getting emails at midnight. Maybe I'm just not cut out for it, I said. Or maybe your manager is the problem, not you. I wanted to believe her, but I was so deep in it I couldn't see clearly anymore. Emma made me promise to take the next day off. I said I couldn't. She insisted. So I did. I called in sick. It was the first time I'd taken a sick day since starting. I slept until noon. When I woke up, I had 7 emails from Sarah. Questions, requests, checking in on projects. I didn't respond to any of them until 5 p.m. When I finally replied, I just said I'd been sick and would catch up tomorrow. She responded immediately. Hope you feel better. We really need that campaign brief ready for Monday. It was Friday afternoon. The brief would take at least 10 hours. I worked all weekend. The next month was worse. My tension headaches became constant. I was taking ibuprofen like candy. My shoulders were always tight. My jaw hurt from clenching it in my sleep. I went to the doctor. She asked about my stress levels. I told her about work. She said I needed to take time off. She said my body was giving me warning signs. She said if I didn't rest, I'd burn out completely. But how could I take time off? We had 3 major campaigns launching. Sarah needed me. The team needed me. Or so I thought. Then something happened that changed everything. It was a Thursday night, around 11:30 p.m. I was finishing yet another revision. My hands were shaking from too much coffee. My eyes hurt from staring at the screen. My head was pounding. Then I got an email, but not from Sarah, from someone else in the company, a woman named Jessica from product marketing. We'd worked together on one project months ago, maybe exchanged 20 emails total. The subject line said, "Are you okay?" I opened it. She wrote, "Hi, I hope this isn't overstepping, but I've noticed you've been sending emails at really late hours. I've been there. I had a manager who pushed me the same way, and it nearly broke me. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. No judgment, just support. Take care of yourself." I stared at that email for a long time, a near stranger showing more concern than my own manager. Someone who barely knew me seeing that I wasn't okay. I started crying again. But this time it was different. This time I felt less alone. I wrote back. I told her I was struggling. I told her about the midnight emails. I told her about the constant revisions. I told her I didn't know what to do. I sent it before I could overthink it. She responded within 5 minutes, even though it was nearly midnight. She said she'd been exactly where I was. She said she understood. She said she wanted to help if she could. She asked if we could meet for coffee the next day. I said yes. The next morning, we met at a small cafe near the office. Jessica was waiting when I arrived. She hugged me, which surprised me. We barely knew each other, but she hugged me like we were old friends. We got coffee and sat in a quiet corner, and she told me her story. 2 years ago, she had a manager just like Sarah, someone who sent emails at all hours, someone who always needed just one more revision, someone who made her feel like nothing was ever good enough. Jessica said she tried to make it work for over a year. She thought she just needed to be better, faster, smarter, more resilient. She pushed herself harder and harder. She stopped seeing friends. She stopped exercising. She stopped doing anything except work and sleep. And even sleep became scarce. She was running on fumes until one day she collapsed at her desk. Middle of the afternoon, middle of a meeting. She just passed out. Her coworkers called 911. She woke up in the hospital. The doctor said it was an anxiety attack, severe stress, dehydration, exhaustion. Her body had literally forced her to stop. That's when she knew something had to change. She couldn't keep living like that. She talked to HR. She documented everything. Every late-night email, every unreasonable deadline, every weekend she'd worked. She didn't go in angry or emotional. She just presented the facts. Here's what's been happening. Here's how it's affecting me. Here's what needs to change. HR took her seriously. They moved her to a different team, a team with a manager who respected boundaries. She said it saved her career. More importantly, it saved her health. I listened to all of this with tears streaming down my face. Jessica reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You don't have to keep doing this," she said. "I don't know what else to do," I said. "Yes, you do," she said gently. "You know this isn't sustainable. You know something needs to change. But what if they fire me? Then you'll find another job. There are good companies out there, good managers. This isn't the only option. I feel like I'm failing." "You're not failing. The system is failing you." That hit me hard. The system is failing you. I'd been blaming myself this whole time, thinking I wasn't strong enough, wasn't good enough. But maybe it wasn't about me. Maybe it was about a broken system. Jessica gave me practical advice that day. She said to start documenting everything. Screenshot every email with timestamps. Keep a log of hours worked. Note every revision request, every late-night ask, every weekend project. She said to look up the company's policies on work-life balance. Most companies have them, even if they don't enforce them. She said to set up a meeting with HR, not to complain but to seek guidance, to ask about resources, about company policies, about options. She also said something else that scared me. She said I needed to start setting boundaries, even small ones, even if it felt terrifying. Because without boundaries, this would never end. Sarah would keep pushing. I would keep breaking, until something catastrophic happened. "Start small," Jessica said. "Turn off notifications after 9 p.m. Don't check email before 8 a.m. When she sends late-night requests, respond the next morning. What if she gets mad? She might. Or she might not even notice. Either way, you have to try." I left that coffee meeting feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not everything was fixed. But I had a plan, and I had someone who believed in me. That weekend, I started documenting. I went through my email and took screenshots of every late-night message from Sarah. There were dozens. Emails at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., even 2 a.m. once. I created a spreadsheet with dates, times, and content. I logged every weekend I'd worked, every late night, every revision cycle that lasted days. Seeing it all laid out was shocking. It was worse than I thought. In 3 months, I'd worked at least part of every single weekend. I'd received late-night emails at least 4 times per week. I'd done more than 50 revision cycles on various projects. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't occasional crunch time. This was constant, unsustainable pressure. The next week, I started making small changes. I turned off email notifications on my phone after 9 p.m. That first night, I felt anxious. What if Sarah needed something? What if I missed something important? But I forced myself to leave the phone alone. The next morning, there were 3 emails from Sarah, all sent between 10 p.m. and midnight. None of them were actual emergencies. I responded at 8:30 a.m. She never mentioned the delay. I tried it again the next night. Same result. Sarah sent late emails. I responded in the morning. Nothing bad happened. After a week of this, I realized something. Sarah didn't actually expect immediate responses. She was sending emails when she worked, which happened to be late. But she'd never explicitly said I had to respond right away. I just assumed I had to. I'd created that pressure myself in response to her behavior. Don't get me wrong, her behavior was still a problem. Sending work emails at midnight creates pressure even without explicit demands. But understanding this gave me some of my power back. I kept documenting. I kept my evening boundaries. And slowly I started to feel a little less anxious. After 2 weeks, I scheduled a meeting with HR. I was terrified walking into that office. The HR representative was a woman named Diana. She was probably in her 40s, calm and professional. She invited me to sit down. She asked how she could help. I took a deep breath, and I told her everything. I showed her my documentation, the timestamps, the patterns, the impossible revision cycles. I told her about my declining health, the headaches, the insomnia, the anxiety. I told her I loved the work but couldn't sustain this pace. Diana listened to everything without interrupting. She took notes. She asked clarifying questions. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Thank you for bringing this to me. I know that took courage." "I don't want to get anyone in trouble," I said quickly. "This isn't about trouble," Diana said. "This is about creating a healthy workplace. And what you're describing isn't healthy." She said she'd heard similar concerns from others on my team. She said this was a pattern they needed to address. She asked what I wanted to happen. Did I want to transfer to another team? Did I want to try working with Sarah on new boundaries? Did I want to leave the company? I thought about it carefully. Part of me wanted to run, to transfer immediately and never look back. But another part of me wanted to try. I actually liked the work when it wasn't crushing me. I liked my teammates. I liked the company's mission. I just needed healthier boundaries. So I said I wanted to stay and try. Diana said she'd facilitate a conversation with Sarah. She said she'd be there to mediate. She said we'd establish clear guidelines together. I left that meeting feeling scared but supported. The conversation with Sarah happened a week later. In a conference room, just the three of us. Sarah, me, and Diana. It was one of the most uncomfortable hours of my life. Diana started by explaining why we were there. She said concerns had been raised about work-life balance. She said they wanted to make sure everyone had what they needed to succeed sustainably. Sarah looked surprised, almost hurt. She said she had no idea I was struggling. She said she thought I enjoyed the fast-paced environment. She said she sent late emails because that's when she worked, not because she expected immediate responses. She said she didn't realize how it was affecting me. Part of me wanted to call bullshit. How could she not know? How could she not see me getting more tired, more anxious, more mistake-prone? But I decided to take her at her word. Maybe she genuinely didn't see it. Maybe she was so focused on outcomes she missed the human cost. Diana guided us through establishing new guidelines. No emails after 8 p.m. unless truly urgent. And urgent was defined narrowly active crisis, time-sensitive external deadline. No weekend work unless discussed and agreed upon in advance, at least a week before. Revisions limited to 2 rounds unless there's a significant change in project direction. And even then, timeline adjustments to accommodate major changes. Regular check-ins about workload and capacity. Weekly one-on-ones where I could raise concerns before they became crises. Sarah agreed to all of it. She even apologized. She said she'd been managing the way she was managed when she was coming up. Long hours, constant availability, relentless revision. She thought that's what excellence required. But she could see now that it wasn't sustainable. I left that meeting feeling cautiously hopeful. And lighter. Lighter than I'd felt in months. That was 3 months ago. And I have to say, things are better. Not perfect, but significantly better. Sarah still works late. I know because I see her Slack status active at 10 p.m. sometimes. But she schedules her emails to send at 8 a.m. the next morning. She still requests revisions. But now we discuss them in person first. She explains what she's looking for and why. We talk about timeline implications. If something will take significant time, we adjust other deadlines. She asks about my bandwidth before adding new projects. In our weekly one-on-ones, she actually asks how I'm doing. Not just how are the projects going, but how are you doing? And she seems to genuinely want to know. I'm sleeping better now. Not perfectly, but better. I still occasionally wake up anxious, but it's less frequent. I actually enjoy my weekends again. I see friends, I go hiking, I cook meals instead of ordering takeout. I don't panic when my phone buzzes. I've reclaimed my evenings. My headaches are less frequent. My shoulders are less tight. I'm making fewer mistakes at work. Because I'm rested enough to think clearly. My work is actually better now. More creative, more strategic, more thoughtful. Because I have the mental space to do good work. Not just fast work, good work. But here's what I learned through all of this. The midnight emails weren't really about the emails. They were about respect, about boundaries, about recognizing that I'm a whole person, not just a worker. I learned that setting boundaries doesn't make you weak or uncommitted. It makes you sustainable. You can't do good work if you're breaking down. I learned that suffering in silence doesn't make you a better employee. It just makes you a suffering employee, and eventually a broken one. I learned that speaking up is terrifying, but staying silent is worse. Staying silent means accepting unacceptable conditions. It means letting the problem continue for you and for others. I also learned that not all workplaces are like this. Jessica helped me see that. She showed me that good managers exist, managers who respect boundaries, who see employees as humans, who understand that sustainable excellence is the only real excellence. Healthy workplace cultures exist. I don't have to accept dysfunction as normal just because it's common. I learned that companies respond to documentation and clear communication. Going to HR scared me, but they took me seriously because I came prepared. I had evidence, not just emotions. I was clear about what I needed, not just what was wrong. I also learned that change is possible but not guaranteed. I'm lucky that Sarah was willing to change. Not all managers are. Some are so entrenched in their ways they can't or won't adapt. If Sarah hadn't been willing to establish new boundaries, I would have transferred or left the company. Because I know now that no job is worth losing myself. I'm writing this letter for anyone who's awake right now staring at their inbox, for anyone whose heart races at notification sounds, for anyone who's forgotten what it feels like to fully relax, for anyone who thinks this is just how work is. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to live like this. You deserve boundaries. You deserve to leave work at work. You deserve to sleep through the night. You deserve weekends that are actually restful. You deserve a manager who sees you as a person. And if your workplace can't or won't respect that, you deserve to find one that will. It took me almost breaking down to figure this out. I hope you don't have to go that far. I hope you'll advocate for yourself sooner than I did. Start small if you need to. Turn off notifications. Respond to late emails in the morning. Document the patterns. Talk to someone who understands. And if it doesn't get better, make a plan to leave. There are other jobs, other companies, other managers. You are not trapped, even when it feels like you are, because you matter. Your well-being matters. Your health matters. Your life outside of work matters. And no job, no matter how prestigious or well-paying or important it seems, is worth losing yourself. I'm still at this company. I'm still on Sarah's team. And I'm okay. Not perfect, still learning, still setting boundaries. But okay. And that's something I couldn't say 4 months ago. If I can get here, you can too. Sincerely, a marketing associate learning to set boundaries. That was our first story tonight. The email at midnight, a letter from someone learning to reclaim their boundaries. In many workplaces today, the line between work and life has blurred. Technology means we're always reachable, always available. But availability isn't the same as health. Connection isn't the same as respect. Our letter writer learned something crucial, that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. That speaking up isn't complaining, it's survival. Sometimes we think we have to endure everything to prove our worth, but real worth doesn't require us to break ourselves. If tonight's story resonated with you, I hope you'll take something from it. Whether it's documentation, conversation, or simply the courage to say enough. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. You deserve to be more than your job. Now let's move to something a little lighter. Our second story is about an unexpected moment of connection. The kind that reminds us that work isn't just about tasks and emails. It's also about the people we share space with. Sometimes we struggle with big workplace problems. Burnout, boundaries, whether to stay in a job that's draining you. And sometimes the solution comes from the smallest, most unexpected things, like a coffee machine that stops working. Spoiler alert. In our next story, the breakdown becomes a breakthrough, because sometimes you have to walk through the cold to find warmth. Our second story tonight is called The Broken Coffee Machine. Dear Radio Theater, I work in the accounting department of a mid-sized publishing company in Boston. I've been here for 7 years. This is a story about something small that ended up meaning a lot. It's about a coffee machine, but really it's about connection. Let me explain. Our office has 3 floors in a converted warehouse building in the Seaport District. The first floor is sales and business development. You can hear them from the stairwell, always buzzing with energy. Lots of conversations, lots of laughter, lots of deal celebrations. The third floor is editorial and creative. That's where the magic happens, as they like to say. Book covers being designed, manuscripts being edited, marketing campaigns being dreamed up. And then there's the second floor. Accounting. My floor. We're known as the quiet floor. The serious floor. The floor where people come to drop off receipts and invoices, then leave as quickly as possible. We don't have the buzz of sales. We don't have the creative energy of editorial. We have spreadsheets, calculators, and a lot of concentrated silence. And honestly, I like it that way. I'm not great with small talk or big social scenes. I never have been. Even in college, I preferred studying in the library to hanging out at parties. Even in my friend group, I was the quiet one. The listener, not the talker. I chose accounting partly because of the work itself. I like numbers, I like order, I like things that balance. But I also chose it because of the culture. Accountants tend to be introverted. We're comfortable with silence. We respect each other's focus time. We don't need constant interaction to feel productive. At this company, I've found my rhythm over 7 years. I have my desk by the window with a view of the harbor if I turn my chair just right. I have my systems, my routines, my way of organizing work. And every single morning I have my coffee ritual. I arrive at 8:30. Not 8, not 9, but 8:30. Early enough to get work done, late enough to avoid the crowded morning commute. I take the elevator to the second floor. I put my bag down at my desk. Then I go straight to the break room. The break room is small, just a kitchenette really. A counter with cabinets, a refrigerator, a microwave, a sink. And the coffee machine. It's a nice one. Much nicer than you'd expect in an office break room. The company invested in it about 3 years ago. Apparently, someone in leadership read an article about how good coffee improves employee morale and productivity. So they bought this fancy machine. It grinds whole beans fresh for each cup. It has settings for different sizes and strengths. It even has a milk frother for cappuccinos and lattes. It probably costs $2,000. It's definitely the most expensive thing in our break room. Everyone on our floor uses it. Even people from other floors sometimes come up to use it because the coffee is that good. But here's the thing about our floor's coffee culture. We don't talk while we're in the break room. It's an unspoken rule. We nod at each other if we arrive at the same time. We say good morning if we make eye contact. But we don't start conversations. We don't ask about weekends or comment on the weather. We just make our coffee and leave. I think everyone appreciates this. We're accountants after all. We came to this floor to work, not socialize. The break room is functional, not social. And that's always been fine with me. More than fine, actually. Perfect. Every morning for 7 years, I've followed the same routine. Walk into the break room. Take a mug from the cabinet, the same blue ceramic one I've claimed as mine. Fill it with water from the cooler to rinse it out. Select dark roast beans in the coffee machine. Press the button for a medium cup. Wait 30 seconds while it grinds and brews. Add just a splash of cream from the refrigerator. No sugar. Take the first sip right there, standing by the counter. That first sip is important. It's the transition from home mode to work mode, the moment when my brain switches on. Then I take my coffee back to my desk and start my day. Checking emails, reviewing spreadsheets, preparing reports, the coffee slowly disappearing as the morning progresses. This routine is so ingrained, I don't even think about it anymore. It's automatic, like breathing. And I like that. I like the predictability. I like knowing exactly how my day will start. No surprises, no variations, no stress. Just coffee, then work. So last Tuesday, when I walked into the break room at 8:32, I expected the usual. But something was wrong immediately. The coffee machine had a blinking red light. I'd never seen a red light on it before. Usually it's green, steady, and ready. But this was red, blinking frantically, and the screen showed an error message. Error system malfunction. I stood there staring at it. Then I did what anyone does with a broken machine. I pressed buttons randomly, hoping one would fix it. Nothing happened. I tried the power button. Nothing. I tried the menu button. Nothing. The red light just kept blinking at me mockingly. Okay, I thought, maybe it needs to be reset. I unplugged it from the wall, waited 10 seconds like you do with a router, plugged it back in. The machine made a noise, a hopeful whirring sound. Then the red light came back. Error system malfunction. I stood there feeling unreasonably frustrated. I know it's just coffee. I know there's a cafe on the first floor. I know I could walk 2 blocks to a Dunkin' Donuts. But this wasn't just about caffeine. This was about my routine, my ritual, the one predictable, comfortable, controlled way I started every single workday, and it was broken. I felt off balance. The way you feel when you wake up and your alarm didn't go off, or when you reach for your phone and it's not in your pocket. That small surge of panic. While I was standing there, probably looking distressed, Margaret walked in. Margaret sits 3 desks away from me. She's been with the company for 15 years, longer than almost anyone else in accounting. She's a senior accountant, maybe 10 years older than me. Short gray hair, always professional, always competent. We've worked in proximity for 7 years. We've said good morning to each other probably 2,000 times. We've been in countless meetings together. We've emailed back and forth about shared projects. But we've never had a real conversation. Nothing beyond work logistics and polite greetings. I know almost nothing about her life outside of this office. And she knows nothing about mine. That's just how it's been. Margaret saw me standing by the broken machine. She didn't say anything at first. She just walked over and looked at it herself. She pressed a few buttons. Same result. Red light, error message, no coffee. She unplugged it and plugged it back in, just like I had. Same result. She sighed deeply. I sighed too. We both just stood there for a moment staring at this machine that had failed us. Then Margaret said, "Well, this is a disaster." She said it with such dramatic seriousness that I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, which surprised me. I'm not usually a person who laughs easily, especially at work. But something about her delivery was perfect. The way she said disaster like we were facing a genuine crisis. Like the coffee machine was the most important thing in the world. Which at 8:32 in the morning it kinda was. Margaret smiled at my laugh. A real smile, not just a polite one. "I'm completely useless before coffee," she said. "Same," I replied. And it was true. It was also the most personal thing I'd ever said to her. The most I'd revealed about myself beyond spreadsheet talk. Then Tom walked in. Tom is our department manager. He's been my boss for all 7 years I've been here. He's probably in his early 50s, always in a suit, always professional. And honestly, he's always intimidated me a little. Not because he's mean or unfair. He's actually very reasonable. But he has this serious energy. He doesn't do small talk. He doesn't joke around. He runs efficient meetings, gives clear feedback, and maintains professional boundaries. I've always been a little nervous around him. Always worried about saying the wrong thing or making a mistake he'll notice. Tom saw us standing by the machine. He didn't even need to ask. "Don't tell me," he said, walking over. "It's dead," Margaret confirmed. Tom closed his eyes like he was in physical pain, like someone had just delivered truly terrible news. "I have a budget meeting with the CFO in an hour," he said. "I need coffee for that." The way he said it was so earnest. Not bossy or demanding, just honest and a little desperate. "We all need coffee," Margaret said. She gestured between the 3 of us like we were a team united by a common crisis, which I guess we were. "Should we call facilities?" I suggested. Tom checked his watch, a nice silver one he always wears. "They won't get here for at least 2 hours, probably longer. And I'm guessing this isn't a quick fix." "There's a cafe on the first floor," Margaret said. 30-minute line this time of morning," Tom replied immediately. "Everyone in sales gets coffee at the same time. There's a Starbucks 2 blocks away," I offered. "Same situation," Tom said. "Morning rush." We all stood there in our shared misery. 3 people who barely talked to each other outside of work context, united by coffee deprivation. It would have been funny if it wasn't so genuinely distressing. Then Margaret had an idea. I saw it on her face the moment it occurred to her. "There's a small cafe 2 blocks away in the other direction," she said. "Pietro's. It's tiny, mostly locals. They're fast, and the coffee is actually really good." Tom looked skeptical. 2 blocks, he said. "In this cold." And he had a point. It was February in Boston. One of those brutal mornings where the temperature is in the low 20s. The kind of cold that hurts your face. The kind of cold that makes you question all your life choices that led you to living in New England. "I'll go if someone comes with me," Margaret said. She looked at both of us. There was a pause. One of those moments where everyone's waiting to see who will volunteer. Tom pulled out his wallet before I could overthink it. "Large dark roast, black," he said, handing Margaret a $10 bill. Margaret looked at me, and I heard myself say, "I'll come." I'm still not sure why I said it. Maybe because I desperately needed coffee. Maybe because saying no felt awkward. Maybe because something about the shared crisis made me feel less anxious than usual. Whatever the reason, I said it. Same order for me, I added, handing Margaret money. Make it 3 large dark roasts, Margaret said. So just like that we were going. Margaret and I walking through the freezing Boston morning to get coffee. For ourselves and for our intimidating manager. I grabbed my coat from my desk. Margaret did the same. We bundled up in our winter coats, scarves, gloves, hats. The whole armor required for a Boston February. We took the elevator down and stepped outside. The cold hit us immediately. It was the kind of cold that takes your breath away. Wind whipping off the harbor, cutting right through all your layers. This better be worth it, Margaret said, laughing. I can't believe we're doing this, I said. But we kept walking. Left out of our building, then 2 blocks east toward the water. 2 blocks doesn't sound like much. But in 20-degree weather with wind chill, it feels like a marathon. Margaret started talking as we walked, maybe to distract from the cold, maybe because walking side by side is easier than face to face. So, how long have you been in accounting? She asked. 7 years, I said. All at this company. She seemed genuinely surprised. Really? I thought maybe 3 or 4. Nope, 7. You're quiet, she said. It wasn't an insult, just an observation. I know, I replied. I like quiet people, she said. They actually think before they talk. Half the people in this company just say whatever pops into their heads. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just smiled. But I felt pleased. She liked quiet people. She thought quiet was a good thing. We reached Pietro's. It was exactly as Margaret described. A tiny cafe, maybe 10 tables, brick walls with local art hung on them. Warm and crowded, but not overwhelming. The smell hit us the moment we walked in. Fresh coffee, baked goods, cinnamon. It was so warm and welcoming after the bitter cold outside. We got in line behind 3 other people. Margaret kept the conversation going while we waited. She told me she'd been with the company for 15 years, that she'd started right out of college as a junior accountant, that she'd worked her way up slowly, steadily. She said she loved the work but sometimes missed the energy of other industries. Publishing is stable, she said, but it's quiet, you know? Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to work somewhere louder. I like quiet, I said. Me too, she said quickly. But sometimes I wonder if I'm too quiet. Like maybe I'm missing out on connections. What do you mean? I mean, I've worked 3 desks away from you for years and I don't know anything about you. I thought about that. She was right. I don't know anything about you either, I admitted. Well, she said, we're fixing that now. When it was our turn, we ordered 3 large dark roast coffees. The barista was friendly, efficient. While we waited for our order, Margaret asked if I liked working for Tom. I hesitated. He's intimidating, I said carefully. Margaret laughed. He is, isn't he? But he's actually really kind once you get to know him. Really? Yeah. When my mom was sick last year, he gave me flexible hours without me even asking. Just pulled me aside one day and said, take whatever time you need. I didn't know that, I said. Nobody does. He doesn't advertise it. But he notices things. He cares about people, he just doesn't show it the way you'd expect. The barista called our order. 3 large dark roasts in paper cups with sleeves. We thanked him and headed back out into the cold. The walk back felt shorter. Maybe because we were talking. Maybe because we had warm coffee in our hands. Maybe because I felt less alone than I had in a long time. Margaret told me about her daughter who just started college. About how proud she was. About how worried she was too. About the cost of tuition and whether her daughter was eating enough vegetables. I found myself telling her about my cat. His name is Hitchcock, named after the director because he's very dramatic. I told her how he yells at me every single morning until I feed him, how he knocks things off my desk when he wants attention, how he sleeps on my laptop keyboard during video calls. Margaret laughed at all of it. We talked about stupid things too. How Boston winter feels endless. How the harbor is beautiful when it's not trying to freeze you to death. How we both keep meaning to try the new Thai restaurant near the office but haven't yet. By the time we got back to the building, we were both smiling. My face was cold, my fingers were numb even through gloves, but I felt warm somehow. We took the elevator back up to the 2nd floor. Tom was waiting in the break room. He looked anxious, checking his watch every few seconds. When he saw us walk in with the coffees, his whole face changed. You're lifesavers, he said. We handed him his cup. He took a long sip immediately and closed his eyes. Perfect, he said. Thank you. No problem, Margaret said. How much do I owe you? Tom asked, reaching for his wallet again. Already paid, I said. Let me pay you back, he insisted. Don't worry about it, Margaret said. Consider it a team-building exercise. Tom smiled. It was the first time I'd ever seen him really smile. Not the professional smile he gives in meetings. A real genuine warm smile. Well, I appreciate it, he said. Then he did something unexpected. He didn't leave immediately to prepare for his meeting. He stayed there with us, leaning against the counter, drinking his coffee. How are you both doing? He asked. Not in a manager checking in way, in a genuine human way. Margaret mentioned her daughter's college applications. How stressful the whole process was. Tom lit up. He asked which schools, what major. Turns out his son was going through the same thing 2 years ago. They talked for 5 minutes about college essays and campus visits and the absurdity of tuition costs. I just listened, sipping my coffee. But it felt nice, standing there with these two people I saw every day but never really knew, talking about real things, not just spreadsheets and deadlines. When Tom finally looked at his watch again, he said, I should prepare for this meeting. Then he paused. We should do this more often. Margaret and I looked at each other. Get coffee? I asked. No, Tom said. This talking. And then he left. Margaret and I stood there with our coffees. He's right, she said. Yeah, I agreed. The coffee machine got fixed that afternoon. Turns out some internal component had malfunctioned. The facilities guy replaced it, and by 3 p.m. the machine was working perfectly again. The next morning I went through my normal routine. Arrived at 8:30. Went to the break room. Made my dark roast with a splash of cream. The machine worked flawlessly, like nothing had ever been wrong. But something was different. When Margaret walked in a few minutes later, I didn't just nod and leave. I said good morning. Not just the automatic good morning I'd said for years. A real one. With eye contact and a smile. She said good morning back the same way. And we smiled at each other. A small moment, but it mattered. A few days later, Margaret stopped by my desk around noon. Want to get lunch? She asked. I hesitated for just a second. Lunch meant conversation, meant stepping outside my routine. But then I said yes. We went to a sandwich place 2 blocks away. We talked about work, about life, about nothing particularly important. It was nice. Really nice. The next week, Tom stopped by my desk. Do you have a minute? He asked. I panicked internally, assuming I'd done something wrong, but he just wanted to invite me to the monthly budget meeting. He said he thought I'd have good insights since I worked closely with those numbers. I was nervous, but I said yes. In the meeting, I actually spoke up twice. Once to point out a discrepancy in the projections. Once to suggest a different way to allocate resources. Tom listened both times. He actually implemented one of my suggestions in the final budget. After the meeting, he thanked me. Said he was glad I was more involved. Said I should speak up more often. Over the next few months, things slowly changed. I had lunch with Margaret every couple of weeks. We talked about our lives outside of work. She told me about her daughter's college decision, how proud and terrified she was. I told her about Hitchcock's latest dramatic episodes. We complained about Boston winter lasting forever. We recommended books and shows to each other. Normal friendship stuff. But it made work feel different. I wasn't just sitting at a desk anymore, isolated in my routine. I was part of something. A team, a community, a group of people who saw each other. Tom became less intimidating too. He still ran tight meetings and expected good work. But now I knew he was also a person. A dad who worried about college tuition. A manager who cared about his team beyond their productivity. Someone who really desperately needs his morning coffee. I started noticing other people on our floor too. People I'd worked near for years without really seeing. I learned that Daniel, who sits by the printer, has a new baby and is exhausted but happy. That Priya, who handles accounts payable, is training for a marathon. That James, our other manager, makes terrible puns in every meeting and thinks they're hilarious. Small things. But they made the office feel less like a silent workspace and more like a place where humans existed. All of this because a coffee machine broke down. All of this because Margaret said, I'll go if someone comes with me. All of this because I said yes. It's funny how that works. The small disruptions that end up mattering most. I used to think routine was safety. That keeping to myself was easier than trying to connect. And maybe it was easier in some ways. Fewer conversations meant fewer chances to say the wrong thing. But it was also lonely. I didn't realize how lonely until I wasn't anymore. Now I actually look forward to work differently. Not just for the tasks, though I still like those, but for the people, for Margaret's stories about her daughter, for Tom's surprisingly warm check-ins, for the small moments in the break room where we're just humans together, needing coffee, sharing space, making each other laugh. I'm writing this letter because I think a lot of people work like I used to, heads down, routine tight, walls up, thinking that's just how professional life works, thinking that keeping distance is safer than risking connection. But it doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes all it takes is a broken coffee machine, or a walk in the cold, or someone saying, "I'll go if you come with me." Sometimes all it takes is showing up as a person, not just an employee. I'm glad our coffee machine broke that day. I know that sounds weird, but I am, because it broke me out of 7 years of comfortable isolation. It gave me colleagues who are also friends. It made work feel like a place I belong, not just a place I go. And it all started with something as simple as needing coffee. Sincerely, the quiet accountant who learned to connect. Our second story tonight, the broken coffee machine. A reminder that sometimes the smallest disruptions bring the biggest gifts. Our letter writer spent 7 years in a safe routine, quiet, comfortable, alone. Not because people were unkind, but because connection takes effort. It takes stepping outside your routine. It takes saying yes to a walk in the cold. Work takes up so much of our lives. We spend more waking hours with colleagues than with family sometimes. And yet we often keep those relationships surface level. Professional, distant, safe. But there's another way. There's connection that doesn't compromise professionalism. There's warmth that doesn't interfere with productivity. There's humanity in the break room, in the coffee runs, in the small moments between tasks. If you're someone who works quietly, keeping to yourself, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being introverted or valuing routine. But maybe when the opportunity comes, say yes. Say yes to the walk. Say yes to the lunch. Say yes to being a person, not just a worker. Because we all need coffee. And we all need connection. That's all for tonight's Radio Theater. 2 stories from the workplace. One about boundaries, one about connection. Both about remembering that we're human. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing these moments with me. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Good night.